Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. It is January 29th. We're running a little bit behind. It's 7:50, and we have 4 items on our agenda this evening. We are beginning with order number 21-108-317, which is a request for approval of a canopy for the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, 36 Apex Drive, within the Hospitality and Recreation Mixed-Use Overlay Zoning District. I believe we have 3 people from Chick-fil-A. If you would like to squeeze through or go around, and whoever's going to speak, if they would go to the podium, and the microphone is removable. You need to make sure you have it when you're speaking. And if you can identify yourself again for the record, please.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Good evening. My name is Donna Brown. I'm representing Interplan, who is representing Chick-fil-A. I also have the operator here with me as well this evening.
Hi, my name is Mike Lawson, and I'm a local operator of Chick-fil-A Westboro and Chick-fil-A Marlborough.
And thank you again so much for your time this evening. Hopefully we will be able to address all of your issues and concerns this evening. I have created a presentation that I'm hopeful that I've kind of highlighted the things that came up at your meeting the last time. And I also respectfully would like to thank you guys so much for getting us back on your agenda so quickly. I apologize that Jason Rozier was not able to attend this evening. He wishes that he could, but he had another conflict. Sorry. Okay, so I will start. I started the presentation with some photographic examples of existing canopies. It seemed like there might have been a little bit of confusion as to what it was that we were trying to accomplish here. So I have some photos here of some existing canopies. So this one right here is what we call the face-to-face canopy, and this will be the canopy where it's over the order points where the customers in the cars will place their orders. This is another view. It shows one of the heaters. I have to, oh. Yeah, sorry. It doesn't show up though. Yeah, I can see it. You can see it? Yeah. Okay, so it is, I'm so sorry, I don't see it. Thank you. My lovely assistant will show. Yes, that's one of the heaters. Okay, so this is just another view. You can also see the 2 heaters that are hanging there as well. This is another view of it. Again. And then this is actually what we call the OMD canopy, the order meal delivery canopy. This is the one that will go over the pickup window. So this one will be attached to the building. And then these were also some pictures. These are older pictures of the older canopy system that shows the piping on the outside. The piping is actually now within the columns. I had updated the presentation with the newer photos, but unfortunately you guys did not get that one. And it also shows a back view of one of the heaters there. And then there also seemed to be a little misunderstanding on what the concept was with the face-to-face ordering. So I did put some photos in here that actually show an employee outside with an iPad taking the customer's orders. So this is kind of the concept that Chick-fil-A customer service is so important to them, as well as being part of the community. So one of his favorite things to do, I'd mentioned last time, is to be in the dining room and talking to his customers, interacting with them, getting to know them, being part of the community. And this allows them, since they do such a big drive-through business, it allows them to do the same thing with their drive-through customers. And then I also put some cut sheets in here for the canopy heaters. So this just gives some dimensional information, as well as for here. Does anybody have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Yes, ma'am.
Is it, what's the term? Is it radiant heat? What are the heaters again? Is it just?
Yes.
What's the heat?
Yes. Yes, and also, so I apologize. I grew up with natural gas. I now do not have natural gas. I have propane. These heaters are going to be natural gas heaters, not propane heaters. So in my head, propane and natural gas, I think of them as the same thing, but they're not. So these heaters will actually be natural gas heaters. And then this is a cut sheet for the canopy fans. So in addition to having the heaters, we will also have fans that are mounted onto the canopies so that when it's a day like today, it kind of circulates the air instead of it, just kind of being stagnant underneath there. And then another question that had come up when we were here last week was about the clearance bars. So this is a cut sheet of the clearance bars. There are 2 existing clearance bars out at the Chick-fil-A right now. Those are existing to remain. They have a 9-foot clearance, and there's one on either side. So there's 2 drive-through lanes. There's one on each of the drive-through lanes. So these are to prevent high clearance vehicles from getting through there to where the canopy will be. And then we are, what is at the restaurant now are CFL bulbs, and we are going to be replacing the bulbs for this with LED lighting instead of CFLs, which are a little bit more environmentally friendly. They have a longer life, lower energy consumption, and they're also quite durable. And then this, I guess, there was also a little bit of, not clarity in the building plans and the site plan. So I put a screenshot in here to kind of highlight where we're proposing to put the face-to-face canopy and then where the OMD canopy will be as well. Yes.
Thank you very much. So in the box that's on top, basically there, right, that's where the drive-through canopy is going to be.
Correct.
And then you're going to be replacing the canopy that's on the other side?
Correct.
Or you're going to, okay.
Yeah, and there is an existing small canopy that's over the pickup window, and that will be removed, and then this will be put in its place.
You're going to have heaters on that canopy as well?
Correct.
But there's no one outside there?
There will be people outside there as well.
Yeah, we have outside expediters.
Okay.
Yeah, so the typical order entry is 2. We have up to 6 people taking orders.
Okay.
So you're getting a lot more production in the store, which we're getting the order takers here, staying under the canopy to handle food to the guests.
Okay, so they pay, is it expected to be basically credit card payments done under the canopy?
Yeah, so we have credit card swipers.
Yep, under the canopy.
Pay under the canopy, so you're taking your order face to face.
Right, and paying for it then.
Payment, you're getting a receipt here, and they're going through the queue, and then you're getting your food here. Okay. And then exiting.
Okay, so the expediters, they basically take it from the window and then they hand it to.
Yeah, so we have the kitchen, obviously, kitchen's here. We have our baggers. The baggers are handing the food to the expediters, and then taking it to the cars.
Okay. So I appreciate the detail you guys are providing in this one, and this is something that I felt was really important to cover, just how it's laid out, what the issues are. Now, where is the bar for? Yeah, so as soon as you enter the drive-through. That's where the bar is. These are all our parking spaces. So when you come in, immediately you have the 2 9-foot bars. Okay. So you still have quite a distance from here to here. Okay. Are they sway bars or are they solid? If a truck hits it, is it going to bang against it or is it going to knock out of the way?
It's going to bang against it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then these are just some snaps of a little bit more of the detailed plan. So this is the face-to-face canopy. It highlights where we've got the heaters and the fans. And as I had mentioned before, the piping will actually be within the columns of the canopy, and the gas piping will come in from the top.
Are there other questions? Councilor Landers.
Really not a question, just a kind of a comment, Madam Chair. I thought your presentation last meeting was very good. This was excellent. This cleared up, the 2 or 3 concerns I had. Now I understand how it all works. Just one quick question, though, Madam Chair. On that bar, will the whistles go off? Will the lights go off? I'm always thinking of that guy that comes in with a gang, that they're hungry, and I'm going to say they're landscapers like me, see? And they've got ladders on top. They could be higher than 9 feet. So is there anything that if they hit the bar,
Well, I mean, if it's clearly marked on the bar that it's 9-foot clearance, and that's how high the bar is 9 feet.
Okay.
If they were to proceed, even though they saw that it was 9 feet, their vehicle would hit the bar, and, I mean, it would physically stop them from going.
Yeah, that's how most of them work. I just, as I mentioned last week, just some of these bridges in Westboro and Storrow Drive in Boston, and, you know, it's always a concern. But you did a good job. I understand now the purpose of the overhang, the heating, and that stuff like that. I just didn't realize you had so many people outside.
Yeah.
You know, how many, on an average, like, Friday night, how many people do you have working at one time between?
Yeah, on a Friday night, we could have up to 30 to 35 people working.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
and we're looking for more, so.
Yeah. That's all, Madam Chair, but good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Wagner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So are you committed to having methane gas heaters, and is it, because when I was doing some research on radiant heat, most of the top brands that came up were all electric. So is there a reason why you're committed to methane gas as opposed to putting in an electric system, which is seemed like a very common industry standard for commercial radiant heaters?
I honestly don't have an answer for that other than it's Chick-fil-A standard. I mean, this is the standard that we put in all of the canopies, are gas heaters when natural gas is available. So, you
I
know,
think we should also be clear, it's methane gas.
correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we do have the building commissioner here, and we also do have the solicitor, so I guess for maybe both of them, maybe the solicitor. The letter that came from the building commissioner says that the council shall perform, waive, review, and approve or disapprove the design. So do we have a final design that we're technically approving? I don't know if, how would a motion read?
Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, so I think before you have a proposed, proposal, I think it could be a motion to approve the proposal as submitted.
All right, and then this would obviously go to the building commissioner if there are any concerns at their end, any permits that need to be pulled, that would be taken care of by them.
That's, Madam Chair, is correct.
Tim Craig, building commissioner. It will go through the normal process.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to come to a chair?
Can you hear me now? The application will go through its normal building review, and we would ensure that it would meet all building code and subsequent other codes, plumbing and gas requirements, and make sure that the products that you're using are listed within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we have a design that's before us with a little more clarification of exactly what they're doing. Is there further discussion, motion?
I just would like to comment, I just would like for seeing that we just had our climate resiliency meeting, and that I'm having a hard time supporting this when it's going to create an increase of increased demand of methane gas, which is moving us in completely opposite direction. We talked about a green community, we talked about all the efforts we're doing to lower a carbon footprint, and I'm not seeing any technical reason why, other than this is what the company likes to do, where there's industry standard excellent options for radiant heat that are electric. So I think that's really important to consider, and I'm having a hard time supporting a demand for increased methane gas when I'm not seeing a technical reason why it's not the only option.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You had said that this is the company standard where gas is available. Are there places across the country where there are Chick-fil-A's where there is not natural gas or propane available, where they have installed an alternate heating system?
There is.
Okay.
And I mean, there is precedent in the town that, to use propane heaters. There's a restaurant right across the street over here that has propane heaters outside. There's another restaurant across from the parking garage to the rear of City Hall that also has propane fireplaces in their tables. So, I mean, there has been precedence in the community before to use those.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you. You went by age. Quite honestly, you know, Council, I see your concern a little bit, but I'm sitting here saying, I've been going up and down Route 20, east and west, for the last 6 months, and guess what they're doing? They're adding gas pipes. I go up Lincoln Street. I mean, natural gas is going to be around for a while. And so as a result, here's a situation we're going to use natural gas to heat some heating elements that are at least 9 feet off the ground. And so right now, I don't have that concern, Councilor Wagner. I think it's, whether it's a company policy because it's cheaper than electricity, and you're talking to the ace on use of electricity. I mean, I pay a lot of electric light bills. But, so right now, I don't have that concern about natural gas being used to heat these units that are up in the air there. Only because we're replacing all the gas pipes in Marlborough, which is good because some of them are very, very. Now, can I assume, Donna, that you cook with gas?
Correct.
So it's in the building anyways. So I don't have a concern.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, considering I chaired the Climate Resiliency Committee, I think that, you know, it's important that we look at this. Unlike the examples that you give as far as precedence goes, you know, this is the first external heating systems that are in Apex, and Apex is under the control of the City Council. So I think that if we so choose, we can set a precedence for what we have control on. So,
Absolutely.
you know, and I think that if there is an alternative, which would be electric, you know, it's clear to us that we understand your process and what's going on here. Our biggest concern has been the use of natural gas in an environment such as that, because you're just burning out natural gas. So, you know, I think at this point, I mean, I think we need to do a vote, and we can discuss that, but I would prefer to see it come back with electric, and you guys can figure out if you want to have it go through the system and come back again, or we'll see how the votes work out. But
I'm going to call on Councilor Perlman. She hasn't spoken, and then I'll come back to you, Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to commend Councilor Wagner for applying the last meeting in real time. And just was curious, I don't know if anyone has outright asked the applicant, right, would you include electric heaters instead?
We would prefer not to. We would prefer for it to be approved as presented, but if that is the recommendation of the council and that's the way the vote goes, we would install electric heaters.
Okay.
But, I mean, in all honesty, we would prefer not to.
I would just like to echo Councilor Wagner's point. I think it's really important considering that this is ideally going to be a canopy and a Chick-fil-A that would last here for many, many years. And so it's not just a one-day decision, right? It's a long-term decision. And so the climate impact should be considered. If this is an opportunity for us, as it's under the council control, I don't think it would be out of the ordinary to request it moving forward. And that could be a precedent that we do set, as Councilor just mentioned.
Councilor Navin. Councilor Ossing, did you have your hand up? Let me have him talk, and then we'll come back to you. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman Roby. So I'll remind people, if it's electric heat, you don't know where the electricity is coming from. So, I mean, it may sound good and feel good. Did I take that, steal that one? Sorry, Councilor Navin. But again, you know, this is a last minute change. Again, you want that policy, get it on the books. But to drop it on the applicants when they're in the middle of something, again, not sure that that's fair. And again, you don't know where the electricity is being generated from. I know of a nuclear plant up the road, which is good, But I know of also a bunch of coal-fired and gas-fired units that are probably supplying most of the electricity as we speak. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Ossing. Councilor Navin.
Well, I was going to make that point a little bit, because I know I'm probably the only other person besides the council president who has the ISO New England app on their phone, and I was going to mention that today, in a day where we used a ton of electricity, 74% of it was supplied by natural gas and 16% from our friends up north in the nuclear power plant. And look, it's a good point, right? I mean, this is a slippery slope, and this kind of speaks to the challenges that we just started talking about in the last meeting, right? We need to push towards a larger electric footprint. The next part of that sentence is, how are we making the electricity? And that's a huge part of it. And so today, I think, the president makes a good point. Are we making this with oil and gas? Probably not, and we're making less and less with oil, or with oil and coal. We're making less than 1%. However, right, the rest of it is natural gas. That said, Council Perlman mentioned, hopefully your business is here for a long time, and hopefully you continue to do well, and you're employing people in the community, and then that's going to continue to run. By that point, if we don't have a new way of making electricity, we're all in a whole world of hurt, and we're all in a lot of trouble. So I think that it's worth exploring. I would be interested to know, and I'll flip-flop all over the place here and say that I also agree with the president. I don't like dropping something on a small business at the last minute. That said, if the company already has a standard design for electricity that it uses where gas or propane is not available or convenient, I would be interested in knowing what the cost differential is in them and how much that is something that you can look at. I think it's worth at least asking the question. If we're not asking the question, what are we doing? So I don't want to drag this out for you. And I know you've already been back once, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the information. I do think it would be helpful to get a little bit more information so that we can make that decision.
Could I respond to that?
Please.
The cost differential is considerable to go from natural gas to electric, which is obviously why they prefer to put natural gas in. And full disclosure, I spent a lot of time on this presentation. I spent a lot of time on researching electrical energy sources, and my research showed that as well, that a large percentage of electricity is created by natural gas. Now, I also did look into the city of Marlborough, and I did see that you guys do have an agreement with an electrical provider. I do not know if that's the provider that you have. I do know that that is wind-based, that is available, but it's also exceedingly more expensive. So, I totally understand where you're coming from. I did listen to your presentation before this committee. I do understand that, but the bottom line is that the electric heaters are more expensive than the gas heaters. So we would prefer not to put them in. If we need to get more information for you, we will do that. However, he really needs these canopies for his team members. So, we need to do what we need to do in order to, get this approved. So.
If I could just follow up, and this was touched on, I believe, at the end of the last meeting. What's the lead time that you need? Obviously, in a day like today, I'm sure, and I'm not sure how you handled it with your team with, the heat being unbelievable today. But, the primary purpose of this is for the winter and for when the snow starts to fly, I'm assuming. So what is the lead time for the canopies?
Yeah, we would certainly like to have it before the first snow, so definitely before October. We're from New England, so we can get snow in November, right? So definitely before the snow.
But what is how long?
How long does it take
to order, right? You've already got the design, so to order and get them in.
I mean, we really would need to get it, we need to mobilize before we get it approved, to have that date. So, I would say we need to be able to move forward with planning and setting it up and getting everything in motion no later than September. But ideally, the sooner we get it in, the better, because the employees, team members are going to benefit from it in the rain, in the snow, in the sleet, in the sun. It's not just a winter thing. Obviously up here, winter is key, but the rest of the elements are key as well. So.
Good. Yep.
All All right, I saw Councilor Wagner's hand up first, and
Thank you.
back to you.
I just want to emphasize, I don't find this a humorous situation, and that you can green the electrical grid, and that's what we're working on, and that's what the whole next generation roadmap is all about. You can't green frack gas. And let's be clear, it's methane gas we're talking about. The industry would like us to use natural to make it seem like it's this harmless gas. It's not. It's methane gas. And you're already using it, yes, but we're talking about an increased demand. And I mean, I think it's fair to ask, we're not asking you to install geothermal. These are a gas heater versus an electric heater. And there's so many customers in the store, they don't fit in the store, they're wrapped around the building. And so is the argument, you must be making so much money, and the argument is, we don't want you to spend a lot of money on gas heaters instead, so I just think we need to be clear, we're putting what the profit of the company is more important than the impact on the community. And if we're going to be serious, at some point, yes, you can see gas, and there's gas here, but at some point, we have to change our behavior. And this, to me, is a very negligible change to choose electric heaters. If this company is here 30 years in the future, that's 30 years commitment of increased methane gas versus as we green the grid and we put more renewables, like when Vineyard Wind comes online, the vast majority of the state's power could come from wind. But we've got this permanent, you're not going to change the situation. It's going to be a gas-powered heaters. It's just an increase. I think we just need to be honest about what we're talking about. And it's not an unreasonable factor.
Councilor Lander.
Madam Chair, you know, I hate that we're in this discussion, partially because what some of my colleagues have mentioned. But the way you're talking, Councilor Wagner, we ought to put a council order forth to tell them to stop replacing all the pipes on Route 20. Stop replacing all the pipes on Lincoln Street. All right? So why don't we do that? Because now you're talking, these are 8-inch pipes. 8-inch pipes. And you're bringing all this natural gas in to heat all these buildings, including our schools that we just changed to. You know? So we got to be careful. We got to do it right, Councilor Wagner. All right? But we also, all right, got to be careful. We're dealing with businesses, all right? And they've made a cooperative policy. I think it's pretty good that they have heaters out there for their help. But you started last week with this, and I said, boy, I'm not so sure. You know, I'm not sure how much gas. I mean, you're talking as if they were going to heat their building, cook with it. They had a parking garage out there that they're going to heat, and et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to do that. So I think we ought to look at, should we allow gas? My neighborhood is dying for gas. It comes within, and my neighborhood's 53 years old, it comes within 100 feet of my house, and they stopped doing it. All right? But look at every street that they're digging up now is to put your natural gas in. And we're concerned about it coming into the building. They're going to use some of it for cooking, some for heating, and they're going to use some for heating the elements that are 15 feet off the ground to heat their help. So I think we have to be careful when we talk about economic development, all right? You're kind of scaring these companies. And the next company was going to try to come in and use a minute amount of natural gas. They're going to say, you know, this Marlborough, I thought Marlborough was, you know, pretty friendly to business. It's not like they're bringing in something that, you know, is going to hurt us. Now, down the line, all right, not my lifetime, but down the line, you know, natural gas will go away just as coal has gone away. And we're going to have more solar. We're going to have wind. We're going to have a lot of stuff. But I think for the transition, all right, I see nothing wrong with them expanding their use of natural gas within that site, all right, and move forward. I think we're sending a message, all right, to a small, medium-sized franchise business that I'm not so sure if we want to do that. And that's what I'm going to consider when I vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, I think we can go back and forth, and everybody can just keep continuing with their comments. At some point, I think we need to just have a motion and take a vote and see where we are with this. So, somebody have a motion? Councilor Doucette?
I want to say something before I make a motion.
How about
Waiting
we
patiently.
make a motion and then you can comment on the motion?
No, because that's not protocol.
No, protocol is a motion should be made before discussion happens.
Right,
and we've
yeah,
had a
right.
lot
The
of
discussion's not about the
discussion,
motion,
so-
the discussion's about the conversation that just went on. I just want to clarify 2 points.
All right.
Just specifically. First is, the wind power is cheaper than the others. Okay, just to let you know. Secondly, Mr. Landers, the reason why the
Counsel,
pipes...
please.
Councilor Landers, my apologies, sir. Seriously.
Councilor
My
Doucette, we don't
apologies
need
on
to
that.
go back and forth.
But in any
I
case,
asked-
no, I think
No,
it's important because he's talking, why are these pipes being replaced? They're being replaced because they leak like a sieve.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay, and if they don't get replaced, the amount of, natural gas that they release into the environment is 17 times more dense than, has a greater environmental impact than CO2, something of that scale. I mean, it's just, so that's why the pipes are being replaced. And
Just like the water pipes out in Donald
Excuse me,
Boulevard.
Councilor Landers,
Okay, madam.
you don't have
Thank
the
you,
floor.
ma'am.
Councilor Doucette, do
Yes.
you
So I think
have-
it's important, I think it was important to address and get these pipes replaced before we pave all over them with grand-new pavement.
Why
And
we're
I
doing
think
it.
that that's the best step to do, and that's why they're being done today. So, thank you very much, Madam Chair. What sort of motion are you
Counselor-
looking for?
I will make a motion.
Let him go.
Councilor Navin had his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to continue the back and forth too much because I don't think that that's helpful. I think people feel pretty passionate about this. The only thing I would say is that it is true that this transition will happen at some point. I do think that the transition continues to happen because of the small decisions that we make that continue to culminate in larger action. And natural gas is a bridge fuel, and it is going to get us to a more renewable future, but we should try and do our best to get that renewable future here as quickly as possible. I wonder, and I'm a little out over my skis here, so I'm not sure what the motion would be. So I will ask for a little bit of help. However, we do have a full council meeting in July. We have a full council meeting in August. I would like to see a little bit more information for a cost comparison and a comparison of what an electric designed canopy would be. So I don't know if, I'm happy to make a motion to approve one that is made with electricity, but I don't think that that's very fair, and I want to give you the opportunity to present that information to us, so that I would also be happy to make a motion to leave this and to schedule another meeting where we can have some information as soon as you have it.
May I ask one other question?
Please.
What criteria will you use in order to make that decision as to whether or not you would require us to put electrical heaters in instead of gas?
That's a fair question. I do not know at this time.
So you had said you want a cost comparison.
I would
so
just
you
like to,
need
I would like to see
know-
what the cost benefit analysis that has been done.
Just question as to what criteria you're going to use in order to determine whether or not we need to install electric or we need to install gas, or we can install gas.
And I'm not sure if they know the cost because it hasn't been set up yet by the city. There are permits you'll have to pull, different permits, I would assume, for gas than electric.
Oh, I'm not worried about that part. I'm saying I would like some type of an idea as to what criteria you are going to use in order to determine whether or not you're going to require us to change the gas heaters to electric heaters.
Right, and that's a fair question, and because it's a subjective answer, I do not have that before you right now. This is just, I would like to try and have a better understanding of what kind of hardship it is creating for the business to look at exploring whether or not an electric canopy is something that is doable or is not. And I don't know if Councilor Doucette has something that he has thought of already.
I almost don't want to call on you, but Councilor Doucette, if you have...
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. For the advice of the council, I would say that there's three operatives to this, right? There's equipment cost. What's the difference in equipment costs of electric versus propane? I actually expect electric to be cheaper for equipment perspective. Second is operating costs. What is cheaper to operate versus, and what sort of factor is in operating cost? And the third is longevity. How long is this equipment going to last? Is the electric heaters are going to outlast propane heaters by far. So, and this is a long-term play. I would expect those three to be the issues to be addressed. Is that fair?
It is, but it still doesn't address what differential you're looking for to determine which way you want us to go.
I want to see what those three are, and I'll make up my mind.
Councilor Navin, you were the one who brought it up. Will those answer your questions? And I guess, well, to what point? If the differential is there is no difference, then, or even if there is a difference, how much of a difference? Do you want it to be costing way less for the gas than the electric, so you want them to switch?
I would like to, if it is fairly comparable, I would rather see it be an electric canopy.
Okay.
However, I'm not looking to, drag this out forever and ever and ever and, stop you from putting a canopy up. I'm just saying, throughout the country, there are places where you do install electric ones. I do think that it is beneficial to have that information, and if we can move in that direction with everyone's cooperation, I think that would be helpful. If it's not, I understand that's a different discussion.
Okay, so I don't know if this is possible, but is it a possibility to make a motion that if we were to make the decision to change to electric on our own volition, that our submittal would be approved as submitted with the change from natural gas heaters to electric? However, if we were to decide that we wanted to pursue keeping the gas heaters, that we would then have to come back to committee. Is that possible, or is that not within the committee's purview?
Yeah.
If Chick-fil-A is willing to make the decision without coming back to the committee to go to electric, I'd like that option available so that we can hopefully, get our approval, get our building permits, and move forward. However, I'd also like to have the option available
to come back.
That if they, if they want to pursue. So is that something that?
That is what I was going to suggest up front, and I didn't want to presume.
Okay.
No, I appreciate that, and that's why I said I don't want to presume that, because I didn't know if that put you in a tough spot.
But honestly, none of us right now are in a position to make that decision. We need to run numbers. We need to determine whether or not that's something that we can live with, or if we want to push the issue. So if you guys are willing to do that, that would be great.
I am willing to make that motion. To approve this with an electric canopy, and I don't know if the solicitor needs to weigh in on whether or not this will work, but however.
And I guess I would like the solicitor to come back up here because the original one was the design, and obviously we don't have a design before us at this point. Now we have a concept.
Well,
is that a problem?
Before he speaks, can I have some input? I know I've had a lot of input, but I think we still have some discussion before we have to hear from the city solicitor.
I would prefer hearing from the city solicitor on what the motion would sound like, and then we can have discussion on whether that's...
Maybe what I say might change someone's mind about making a type of motion. And what I want to say, Madam Chair, all right, when BJ's moves in and spends millions of dollars, are we going to tell them what type of utility they're going to use?
Thank you, Councilor Landers. I don't think that's really going to help with the motion.
Let me finish, please.
No, I think that you
What we're doing, Madam Chair, we're setting a tone for this council.
No, we're giving...
Wait a minute. We've been together now for 16 months, and we haven't moved forward on many things.
Councilor Landers, we have a concession that's possible so that we can move forward. They are willing to change what they had in front of us. If you let them have the chance to have it go forward, then we'll figure out whether you may not like it, and you can vote against it.
I know that.
But
how do I know this same group, this green group that we just met an hour ago, doesn't decide that over all right, at the campus, we have absolutely no propane gas there.
I don't know that they can, and I don't think
Why-
that's
if
what's
they're doing
before
it
us at
tonight,
the moment.
Why wouldn't they do it then?
Counselor Landers, I'm going to ask you to finish now and
Well,
let
what are
the
we gonna do?
solicitor answer the
Stop
question.
discussing our economic future?
Counselor
That's what you're
Landers,
doing.
please stop. You do not have the floor.
I did, you gave it to me.
You don't have the floor. Thank you. Solicitor, thank you.
Sure, Madam Chair. So the committee could entertain a motion to approve the design as amended, subject to the applicant submitting a letter stating that they'll use an electric-based system. That's fine. I would suggest setting a date to get that letter. So, for example, if the letter didn't come, before the next deadline to submit to the council, then the item should just stay in committee and not obviously go forward on reporting it out.
So I would not be able to report this out on the 19th to potentially take a vote with a suspension or to take a vote?
Madam Chair, you could. I think the question is if essentially if you got a letter next week saying, no, we're not going to do an electric system, would you like that to stay in committee or have the council essentially refer it back to committee at that point? That would be the question procedurally.
I thought the suggestion would be that the motion would be that they would have to do the electric, and if Chick-fil-A said no, they would have to come back to the committee. So that would be the motion. The motion would be
Correct, and we would come back to the
approve an
committee.
electric heater design that would be then approved in more detail by the building department, because I don't have a clue. And if Chick-fil-A says no on the electric, then they have to come back to us. Otherwise, it would be approved for them to move forward on the electric. Is that?
Madam Chair, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, does somebody want to make that motion?
Can I say so
Or
moved
we-
after the solicitor spoke? Madam Chair, motion to approve the amended design, provided that we receive a letter by the proponent confirming that they will be able to install an electric canopy prior to,
What is that date?
so July 19th is our next meeting for the chair to report it out of committee so that we can continue to advance it. Okay. We'll try.
So if we do not get you the letter, then we'll be on the next agenda, providing you information before then on the cost differential between gas and electric.
Correct.
I would guess we may have another committee meeting before the 19th. You won't be on it if I don't know
Okay.
beforehand that Chick-fil-A is saying no. So I guess we would wait until the 19th.
Okay.
If we don't hear from you, then we assume that they're
And I
going to
mean,
go
I'll try
for-
and get back with you as quickly as possible, obviously.
All right. So do you want to repeat your motion one more?
Madam Chair, motion
Design
to,
as amended.
motion to approve the plan as amended, provided we receive a letter from the proponent confirming that an electric canopy can be installed prior to our July 19th meeting.
Okay. Everybody got that motion?
Just point of order for clarity, electric canopy doesn't really, we're talking about electric heaters. So do we want to be clear on that? We're talking about electric heaters.
Electric heaters, yeah, the canopy's not electric, the canopy is, yes. Okay, any other comments by anybody? Councilor Ossing, you had your hand up before, do you?
I was waiting for the motion to be seconded so we can discuss it. Is it been seconded?
Sorry, I
Councilor Navin so
will make a
eloquently stated
formal
it.
second, since I didn't hear one, I can do that, so it's been moved and seconded.
Madam Chair, I'll second it.
Is there, I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Doucette, second, it's moved and seconded. Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, I just want to state the obvious. Just because it's electric does not mean it's not being supplied by natural gas. All right, I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Unless we know who their electric supplier is, You know, if they got National Grid basic service, they're getting a boatload of natural gas to supply their electricity. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. It may feel good that's electric, but it doesn't mean it's coming from natural gas or some green component. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any further comment by anybody?
Madam Chair? I understand what Councilor Osling's saying, but also I actually been watching the trend as far as transitions from coal to oil to natural gas, and basically the grid had been less carbonized, and it's a long arc play. This is not something that happens overnight, but it does happen over decades. And it's not a question of basically what will happen in 3 to 5 years, but, you know, the 5 to 30 years where basically, you know, wind turbines off the coast of New England start, lack of a better term, getting steam and actually start reducing the carbon footprint of the community, because, you know, these wind turbines basically generate gobs of electricity. They're right off our coast, so they don't necessarily lose much for transport costs charges either. So I see this more as, yes, I agree with Councilor Osling for the short term. He's absolutely right. Long term, there's some big savings with this, and the cost will be savings as well. So thank you.
Councilor Wagner, did you have your hand up?
I just want to reiterate, it's not about feelings, because I feel like that is very disrespectful. We're talking about an energy grid that can become, it's going to be, there's goals to have it become more green over time, and if the increased gas demand doesn't magically become more green, it's methane gas, and that it'll be permanent. As we add more, it's permanent, it's there. So the goal is to green the grid, and so the more things we have hooked up to electricity, that's how we bring the carbon footprint down, by greening the grid. So we can't just keep increasing, even though this is a tiny one. This is an easy one to address, to avoid adding it to our demand in the city. We are a green community. This is an easy thing to do to keep us green.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Madam Chair, I request a roll call vote.
I will give you a roll call vote. So the motion is on approving the design as amended to use electric heaters in the canopy, provided we receive a letter from Chick-fil-A by July 19th meeting that they agree. That sort of restate what you stated. I know I was trying to. All right. Councilor Landers.
Present.
Councilor Navin.
Councilor Navin votes yes.
Councilor Wagner.
Councilor Wagner votes yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette votes yes.
And Councilor Roby votes yes. So that is approved 4-0. I will report this out, and I can ask for a suspension pending no letter from Chick-fil-A that we know of, and hopefully this can get approved and you can move forward for your next steps.
Thank you kindly for your time.
And I'm going to do a quick recess so they can move their things out of the way. We have, I believe all of the next items are with Attorney Falk. He is here in the room, so he can come up to the well or stand at the podium, whichever he prefers, and we can let everybody take a quick stand up and breathe.
didn't know if you had it.
All right, everybody, back to your seats, please, so we can continue on. We have a couple more items on our agenda. The next two should be relatively quick, but I don't have a committee member. There he is. All right. Our next item on the agenda is order number 21-100-8215, the application for a special permit from Attorney Falk on behalf of Global Montillo Group Corporation to construct and operate a drive-through facility to serve the current All-Town Convenience Store at 656 Boston Post Road East. And we do have a letter from Attorney Falk. Dear Councilor Ossing, in accordance with with 657C 11B of the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough, my client, Global Montillo Group Corporation, hereby requests leave to withdraw without prejudice its application for a special permit to construct and operate a drive-through facility to serve the existing All-Town Convenience Store and food service use at 656 Boston Post Road East. Please note that Global will be submitting an application for site plan approval with the council for a planned outdoor seating area near the existing convenience store building. Thank you for your time and consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Brian Falk. So Attorney Falk, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add or if we just get a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing more to add other than that as a special permit where we've already had the public hearing, this is one where we have to request leave to withdraw with prejudice, so it's something that requires the council's approval.
Are there questions or concerns from, as he stated, we did extend the special permit to August 24th on this one. This will allow that to go away. They can bring it back if they choose to, but we need to take this to clean up the special permit.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would recommend that the letter be placed on our July 19th agenda so that when you make your report out, the agenda's there, or the letter's there, and the council can take the action at that time.
Thank you. That would have been my plan.
Okay.
So a motion from the committee to accept the withdrawal without prejudice would be in order.
Motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, this letter will be on the council agenda on the 19th. Mr. Clerk, if you can make sure that that's there, and I will report this out, and we can take a vote. The next item on the agenda is order number 21-100-8277, an application for site plan review from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of WOHO to construct a mixed-use project within the Marlborough Village zoning MVD district at 28 South Bolton Street, formerly approved as the Cameron Site, Maryland Green. And we have another letter. Dear Councilor Ossing, please accept this letter as a notice that my client, I keep saying it wrong, woohoo?
I say WOHO.
WOHO, okay, I change it probably every time I say it. Mentally I'm going, how do you pronounce it? WOHO formally withdraws without prejudice its application for site plan approval for the property located at 28 South Bolton Street in Marlborough. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. And I did have a conversation with you, Attorney Falk, and I don't know if the solicitor has a comment. If we need to take a formal vote, it's a site plan. There's nothing really. Mr. Solicitor, do we need to take an official vote, or is this just an accept and place on file?
Madam Chair, I think unlike the special permit, the site plan, there's nothing requiring a formal vote. It could just be accepted and placed on file.
All right, and we could do that at the city council level. This same letter could be on the 19th agenda, and I can move to accept and place on file. Does that sound okay with all the council? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think it makes sense to have it accept and place on file and record. But I think that we need to take a look at WOHO as an example of projects being proposed for downtown within the village district that are having issues. You know, The village district was put in place around 2014-15, if I remember correctly, which is before my time. But I think we need to revisit the district and within urban affairs and figure out what we need to do to make it more effective, because stuff's being proposed, but stuff isn't being built, and it's getting to be kind of frustrating from that end. So.
And I hear you. I've actually had a conversation with a couple of people on potential changes that could be brought forward, so we're looking into it.
Would you submit something? Okay, I'll take you offline. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so our last item on the agenda is order number 20-107-995, which is a special permit application from Attorney Falk on behalf of WP Marlborough, Mass., the owner LLC Waypoint Residential, to build a multifamily residential project in the business district to be known as Valeris Marlborough, consisting of 188 units in 4 buildings to be located at 339 Boston Post Road East. And I had some notes with a couple of comments I was going to make, and I lost them. There. Okay, I know that Attorney Falk has a presentation that he wants to make, but before he does, I just want to briefly go through some of the history of this to remind everybody. This came to us first at a public hearing back in June 8th of 2020. Urban Affairs took this up. We extended it through January 20th, then February 28th, March 31st, May 28th, and finally August 24th, which is fast approaching. On February 1st, we had a meeting that was canceled due to a snowstorm, which with today's weather, we wish we had that snowstorm back. And then we met on the 18th of February, where we did agree to extend the time to act until May 28th. So we are back with this in front of us. I did ask for it to be on the agenda. I think that we need to start looking at this, considering the August 24th extension that we had. So, Attorney Falk, if you want to run through your presentation, and I believe everybody was given the last iteration of the special permit draft. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. And with me tonight from Waypoint is Senior Development Manager Tom Moran. Tom's been a face on your screen for the last year and a half, as have I, but we're glad to be here sharing a room with you all tonight. The last time we met substantively on the project was January 26th. At that time, we had been working with the Site Plan Committee on changes to our plans and a draft decision, as you mentioned. On January 29th, I submitted a revised draft decision that incorporates all the changes to the conditions that were requested by the Site Plan Committee and by this committee. I just wanted to go through a brief refresher of the project, so it's been 6 months. This is a proposed 140-unit multifamily community. 96 units would be 1-bedroom and 44 would be 2-bedroom. Community would have substantial amenities inside and outside for residents and will feature open space areas and a nature trail as well as a pool. 15% of the units will be restricted as affordable following DHCD guidelines. As this project has worked through the various city boards, we were before the ZBA and the Conservation Commission and before the Site Plan Committee many times. The project has been reduced in scope by 25%. We've also worked with the Site Plan Committee on a better placement of the site driveway, increased our open space preservation to 80% of the site, up from 70%, increased the setback along Route 20, removed a satellite parking area, and moved the development area out of the floodplains. This is a view of the Route 20 view of the site. Again, that expanded setback, this is double what's required under zoning to 120 feet. Certainly further back than any of the other condominium complexes and multifamily communities along that same stretch of Route 20. And just a quick view of our common areas. These would be top of the line and help elevate the quality of the multifamily market on the east side of the city. Along the way, we've offered a number of conditions, funding for a traffic signal at our site driveway, additional pedestrian safety and traffic calming measures along Route 20, funding for a trail along the sewer land to the rear of the site, and a commitment to minimize the environmental impact of the project. The site will be 80% green space, It will be all electric. I'm not sure where the electricity will be coming from, but it will be all electric, and so we can work towards that goal with this project. We will be pursuing green building certification. We'll be improving natural habitat area on the site, and we'll be increasing flood storage capacity on the site that will benefit our neighboring properties. Net fiscal impact of the project to the city would be over $400,000 per year. This is $288,000 per year more than an as-of-right retail project would bring in. Again, we've mentioned before there are a number of as-of-right uses that could go at this site, and they would not have to come before this council and probably wouldn't bring as many of the benefits that we think we'll be bringing. When we met with the committee last time, it was made very clear to us that the committee wanted to see this project include a traffic signal at the driveway opposite Village Drive. Since Route 20 is a state road, this is out of our control, not something that the city can approve on its own. So we offered to work with Mass DOT to try to find a solution. The city helped us in that effort with a resolution of the city council in support of a light and a letter from the mayor also urging a light at that intersection. With the help of Representative Gentile, we had a meeting with MassDOT's District 3 group and several city officials. That was back in March. The word from District 3 was that even with our project, the intersection did not meet any of the required warrants that justify a traffic signal. District 3 informed us that any deviation from the warrants that would justify a light would need to come from over their heads at MassDOT headquarters. So we had Attorney Bob Buckley of Reamer and Brownstein, who you know, work with his contacts at Mass DOT headquarters and the governor's office, again, to try to find a solution. We understand that a letter will be coming from Mass DOT Highway Administrator to Mayor Vigent stating that Mass DOT cannot approve a traffic signal at the intersection, and that's based upon the failure to meet required warrants. The agency follows the Federal Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices and its 9 warrants for a traffic signal. Ultimately, the data does not support a signal, and we have not been able to convince MassDOT to deviate from its policies and authorize a light at that intersection. I hope the council can see that this is not for a lack of trying. We have reached out to all of the players that could help make this happen. We've offered to pay for the signal in its entirety. Ultimately, that work did not carry the day in getting MassDOT to approve a signal at the intersection. We did receive a commitment from MassDOT to require a condition in our highway access permit to require periodic reviews of the traffic data so that when a light is warranted, if it is, it will be installed. We also have a special permit condition that we've offered to you previously to put forward $200,000 towards the study, design, and construction of a light in the future. We understand from Mass DOT that this is the kind of funding the agency likes to see. Mass DOT will pay for the work itself, but prefers if the city, or in this case the developer, fronts the money for study and design work, and we have committed to do that through the conditions that we've offered to you. So we had hoped that our efforts would bring the traffic signal that the city and our neighbors were looking for. We tried, but this is simply out of our control. At this point, we look forward to working with the council to complete the review of this application. We have addressed all of the issues that were raised by the site plan committee and all the issues that were raised by this committee, but for the traffic signal. We're bringing forward a project with numerous community benefits that would not accompany an as-of-right use. We're hopeful that we can work with you on the approval of a project that will be a net positive to the city. With that, we're happy to answer your questions, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Falk. So the committee does have the draft. I did go through it. It looks like they got everything that I had marked for changes. I think what the committee was holding up on was, as Attorney Falk has just gone through, is on page 5, 8D. And I know the language of that is that it's prior to the issuance of a building permit, a payment of $200,000 is to be used by the city council toward the study, and then if the Massachusetts Department of Transportation does not authorize the traffic signal within 3 years, that money can be used for other improvements along Route 20. So is that still your plan, to have that 3-year window?
We thought it best to give the city council flexibility in terms of how the funds could be used. It's within 3 years, the council may use the funds for a different purpose. And we thought that would be helpful to a future council, 3 or 4 years from now, if they wanted to have that. But, we're open to other ideas for the money as well. We thought this was the best place, the best approach to this, to fund study and design work, is that is, again, usually what Mass DOT wants to see from the city is the review and the design work. And then at that point, if the project makes sense, Mass DOT will take it from there.
So the 200,000, some of that would be used for that study, which would then lay on the table for 3 years, and if we don't get approval, then the rest of the money can be used for something else, and the design would just be a piece of paper.
Or the city could hold on to the funds and wait and see, and then fund a study at a later date when traffic conditions might be more generous towards a light being installed there. That's another option.
Okay, so they don't have to be used immediately?
That, as I read the condition, I don't believe so.
Okay. Is the committee okay with not going through clarifying what the changes were? You all received, I think, both a tracked version and a clean version. So everybody should have all the discussion from the last meeting, and we're ready to kind of begin discussion. And I see Councilor Navin has his hand up.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I'm sorry if this is not at the appropriate time. Just a question before, since we're talking about the warrant and the back and forth with MassDOT. Did they tell in their, either in their communications or in the meeting with District 3, how far short the traffic impacts caused by this development fall short of the warrants? I know there are several different factors, but is there anything you can share, just out of curiosity?
I don't have it in front of me, Councilor Navin, but I know it's significantly short.
Okay, thank you.
It's not like if we added a 4th building back, we would suddenly.
I'm not trying to go that way. I appreciate that. That's very clever.
The former version of the project also did not meet the warrant as well.
Thank you.
Right, and I was going to remind everybody of that point, too. The original 4 buildings did not meet the warrant. So reducing the number of cars would only make it be further away from meeting that warrant. Did I see another hand over here? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I know that the 3 years is following the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy for the use. My concern is whether or not Route 20's construction will be done by then. And because Route 20, what I've heard is it's likely that Route 20 construction may start next year, and this building's going to be constructed, so that whole strip of Route 20 combined with your construction and the work on Route 20 is going to be chaos for quite a few years. And I'm not sure if things would settle down after the fact in only 3 years. It may be worth pushing it out to 5 years just because of what's going on with Route 20 construction work. I understand and I appreciate what you guys have done in trying to get this through, trying to work through the state on this. And I'm disappointed that, we couldn't get anything taking it more serious, because I think it's a serious safety issue regardless of what's on Route 20 right now. Adding this complex, also while Route 20 construction is going on as well. So, but I think I'm, looking through this, and I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make up my mind on this. But I appreciate the work that you guys did. Thank you.
Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My concern on this is it follows what Councilor Doucette said, that there was a study done pre-COVID, had concerns. It feels like not a valid survey to me, because the whole conditions of the road are going to change. And what I'm hearing is, in time, we can go back and look at it again, but the impact to the people who already live there are going to be forced to live with the consequences, when may or may not have some kind of mitigation in the future. But in the meantime, it could be 3 years, 5 years, while the construction is going on. The new design of the road could could result in increased speed because of the middle turning lane, there'll be less disruption and people will be cruising along an area of the road that's already concerning. So there's really no way to properly assess an impact until after the construction is complete. So I'm having a hard time understanding how a survey to the traffic patterns and conditions can be valid, given that those conditions will no longer exist.
If I can remind everybody, I was just trying to look quickly through. My understanding from what we were told by the traffic study was it's not the Route 20 traffic that matters, it's the traffic coming out of the new driveway that matters. So the fact that it's even less than the original proposal that didn't meet the warrant, less cars at that intersection would mean that it still doesn't meet the warrant, and because the housing numbers aren't going to change, the number of cars coming out of that driveway isn't going to change. So unfortunately, Route 20 traffic, I believe, is irrelevant. It's that specific entry onto Route 20. And if I'm wrong,
So there,
Attorney Falk, you
I'm
can...
learning a lot about traffic through this, or traffic analysis through this project, but there are 9 different warrants. One of them happens to be the traffic along the roadway, and that's also not met. We met none of the warrants for a light at that intersection. The first 2 have to do with the traffic coming in and out of the project site and the community across the street, and we don't meet those warrants as well. And if I just offer, the traffic data that we gathered was certainly pre-COVID, but the analysis takes into account the new Route 20. I know it's not built, so we don't actually know how it flows, but the modeling does take into account the roadway as redesigned, not as it currently stands.
Other questions, comments? I guess I wanted this to be on an agenda sooner rather than later because I think there was a sense when we approved this at the City Council meeting that there would be no more extensions. I may be wrong, and that could actually happen, but my sense was the council said that's it. So we are up against a deadline of August 24th. We meet on July 19th, and then we meet on August 23rd. I do not want to be meeting on August 23rd with nothing to present to the council. So I'm asking for this committee to make sure that something can be presented, either a yes or a no from this committee on this special permit, so it can be reported out on the 19th and we can deal with it on the 24th. And even that is probably, well, it's a special permit, so it's not, we don't have to worry about the somebody voting to not approve it in one evening. So if we need to have further discussion on the conditions, we can do that. If nobody's ready to vote tonight, and we want to set up another meeting between now and the 19th, we can certainly do that. But I think that's kind of where I am as the chair. Councilor Nabin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is just one other question. I'm happy to start discussing the conditions. And Attorney Falk, I apologize. I was looking through all my information. There's quite a bit of it that we've been accruing over the past year or so. With the new design, the expected number of children in, under 18, what have you, what is that number?
I believe with our reduced, it was originally going to be 12, and now I believe it's under 10.
Okay.
Is our estimate.
Okay.
Which is, again, part of why the fiscal impact of the project is so favorable, because we have so many one-bedroom and only a few two-bedroom, and so the expected number of children is quite low.
Okay. Thank you. And Madam Chair, I saw Councilor Perlman, and I might have jumped ahead of her, so I don't know if you want to.
I have my hand, but I'm not a member of the committee. So I just had a clarifying question. I know you mentioned the traffic study, and from my understanding of previous meetings, it did not take into account any development across the street. Is that still correct?
So the way they do the analysis, the number of cars coming and going from Village Drive is so low that it doesn't enter into it. They take it into account, but the numbers are so low that in terms of justifying a signal, it doesn't take effect.
Okay, and if there's any further information on the traffic that could be sent, I think that could be helpful. I know you said there was more recent from the warrants and what wasn't met. I think my biggest concern still remains the safety. I know we've had several deaths along different roadways here in Marlborough most recently, and I'm just very concerned. I know they're redoing the road, obviously, but every time I drive by it and I see people walking, I mean, they're about to get clipped. It's very dangerous, and I'm disappointed in the state, to be honest, that this wasn't able to meet a light, and do appreciate, the work that was done to get there. And, I just think they're just waiting for an accident to happen, and I think that's a disappointment, honestly.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Landers.
I've made this comment before, but what I can't understand, Brian, right in that big shopping mall, right at Route 9 and 20, all right, it's a pretty big mall, and there's 2 entrances and exits on that. Roadways are unbelievable. But on the one that's north, heading towards Northborough Center, when you're going west, there's the entrance to the shopping center. And then there's an entrance to, and I went in and counted them, that there's condos in there, and there's 13 of them. So that means maybe there's 26 people living there. So what a light they have there, in and out. Now, is it the shopping center that dictates the need for a light there, that you might have, 5,000 cars coming in and out of there? But, here again, you got, a condo complex here with, as I say, 13 units. And it just goes in, dead end, comes out. I just don't understand. I was down there the other day, down by McGee's, and honest to God, there was a pickup truck pulling out with a horse trailer. Now, I know their old driveway's pretty tough, but, so I pulled down, to see how long it would take that pickup truck with pulling a horse. How did I know it was a horse? There was a tail sticking out of the back of the truck. But that's the human part of it. They don't realize, a little old man pulling out of there, visiting my grandson or something. Oh, I'm visiting my aunt who lives across the street. You come out on Route 20. Now, you have all those markings in the middle of Route 20. It looks good, and they do work 99% of the time. But I tell you, I hate to be sitting in the middle of Route 20, all right, with markings, waiting to pull into the housing complex there. Either way. It's really unfortunate. Unfortunate. And, the state, I don't even know if they look at the fact, we're trying to move forward, economic development. We're trying to move by with housing. And this is another different type of housing that we're offering. And, we're certainly doing our part. They're spending millions to do over a road, and they got this warrant thing. Someone designed, maybe when Governor Sargent was head of the highways or something, in the 40s and 50s. It's unfortunate. I don't know, Madam Chair, have we bugged our own traffic commission people and our engineers? If we pay for the cost and the design and do it, would the state let us do it? No, they just won't let us touch it.
No, we can't.
Yeah, it's their baby.
It is their baby. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to note 2 things, I guess, on the special permit itself. On page 2, I guess it is, number 12. I just found like an error, and I know Councilor Wagner has been doing meticulous documenting of residents who have contacted us, and I do think that these are outdated numbers. I know the person who had submitted a favorable comment actually was more neutral and didn't want to be listed as favorable, and that I'm pretty sure there are more than 25 members who submitted written comments, but, you know, I defer to Councilor Wagner about that, but I wanted that to be updated. I know I'm not a voting member of this committee, but I do think, you know, this presentation we did receive on the later side, and it wasn't available for the public to see on the public posting, and so I wouldn't like that to be voted on without the public being able to review this in advance, since I know we did receive it today. So that's just something that I'm thinking about, since I know this was a very participated public hearing, considerably given the other projects, and would like more time for the public to weigh in if they have now seen the adjusted design, heard about all of the efforts that have been happening with the traffic light, and, you know, the lack of cooperation from the state and having that be available before moving forward. So I know I'm not a voting member, but I just did want to put that out there. And if Councilor Wagner, I know you had the records, if you'd like to explain that as well for number 12, I'd appreciate it.
The petitioner typically sends in the grant of the special permit, the notice of decision, and so the petitioner put in what was information from the public hearing. We could modify to add another bullet point, just specifying that if we have an exact number or if we don't, that numerous additional submittals were given to the committee after the original public hearing, if that would be sufficient. I think that it's clear the public has given us lots of information. We all have it. At some point, just like other things that have been discussed, it's up to this body to make a decision. And I know that it has been a while since we talked about this, but we did spend a lot of time at that meeting back in January, where we went over this document and came up with the information. It was supposed to be discussed again in February. That meeting was canceled due to the snow. So I personally don't see the need to rehash. I mean, we can certainly go through and I can spell out the changes that were made at that meeting. This council has the document.
Madam Chair.
It was all agreed to. Councilor Ossing.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. Just to Councilor Perlman's point, you can't put numerous. This is a legal document, and the solicitor will yell at us. How many people submitted comments, and that's the number that should be in there. You just can't. I mean, I understand what you want, and people want to sway it one way or the other. It's got to be factual. If there were 25 items on the agenda that become part of the public hearing, that's what's submitted. You can't just say, we got a bunch of phone calls and people said they didn't like it. I mean, that's not factual information. So I just want to clear that point up.
I'm happy to supply the factual number. I have record of 171 letters that I have copies of that I could, happy to supply.
And I guess then the question would be how many of those 171 are included in the 10 members speaking and the 25 who submitted at the public hearing. Correct. So if we're going to go with 171, then we should probably change this whole thing. And I guess we can bring the solicitor up again. He can give us advice on how we handle, because this is very specific that this is talking about the public hearing. It's not talking about letters that we have gotten since, and if in fact we should document the letters that were sent since the public hearing, because Mr. Solicitor.
Sure, Madam Chair, through you. So you're correct. I think the purpose of this finding is to document what the public hearing represented. And to the extent that the committee received comments after the public hearing, it's really information, factual information that's coming in after the close of that hearing. So I'm not sure there's much in terms of a legal value to it. You know, that doesn't mean the committee couldn't say after the public hearing X number of letters were received, but we have to keep in mind that the factual information we're taking from the public is at the public hearing.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Councilor Perlman, do you have a follow-up question? Or
I did. Given that this was one of the first public hearings we had during COVID that was remote, I do think it's important because many people submitted written comments because they might not have been able to get on remote access. I know we were using the phone option and it might have been confusing for some folks, so I just wanted to make sure that the record was actual about who participated, and I do think the written comments allowed people to absorb, you know, the recording of the meeting, and so I think it's a unique circumstance given COVID.
And I guess I hear you, but COVID or not, we have to deal with what we have, as the solicitor just said. So yes, we continued to get, but I believe we also had some people behind the scenes pushing those letters. So we had lots of ability for people to submit at the public hearing, and that's really the document, that's the information that is part of this document. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The one question I have is, one member of the public submitted written comments in favor of the use. I had a conversation with someone, because I thought I knew the name of the person who was in favor, and talked to him about it, and oh, you were in favor? He said, no, I wasn't. So if there was one, I'd like to know who that was, because it has to be somewhere on record, right?
I believe there was someone who had submitted and then withdrew later, and I believe that that was information, but at the point of the public hearing, he had submitted that he was in favor, and that's the documentation we have.
I'm just, right, yeah, no, just wondering how that got clarified, but I agree with Councilor Perlman as much as, this is in the middle of, a very bizarre situation, and I think we need to acknowledge that in the same way that in item 10, it talked about having this in the remote, the open meeting laws, suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting laws, within item 10. I think item 12, we should at least expand what was here to also cover some additional information.
And I appreciate that comment, but I think we've heard from the solicitor, and I do believe that we actually did continue the public hearing. I thought we did. It opened on Monday, July 20th, and closed on, no, I thought my notes said that we had continued the public hearing. But I think that every one of us received all those letters and phone calls, and maybe some of us more than others, but we all have the opinions of the public. Whether it's documented in this, to me, is really irrelevant at this point. The point is that this is documenting what happened at the public hearing. You all can base your votes on all of that additional material and make a decision based on what you have heard through all of this testimony, most of it done virtually because of COVID. But it's the reality that we all had to deal with, unfortunately. Councilor Landers.
See, that's the problem we're having, really. If we could scratch this project and start over again, because I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of the people in Marlborough, they have no idea what's going on in the McGee property. No idea. The way the public hearing was conducted, legally it was fine. All right? The letters that we received, most of them either lived in the complex across the street or had relatives. There's not a person on Crosby Road where I live, signed one of those petitions. And now I was talking to a group, we were watching buses down at the, on Hosmer Street, in the entrance to Royal Crest and Windsor Heights. And someone said to me an interesting question, Don, how long have you lived off of Hosmer Street? It's 53 years. He says, have you ever had trouble getting by there? Have you ever had trouble, cars backing up, trying to take a left into Royal Crest? I said, what are you getting at, John? He says, I see traffic moving along pretty well, going into Royal Crest that I think has 1,600 units, and Windsor Heights probably has 200, all right? You'd be surprised how traffic moves in. Now, I'm not trying to say Hosmer Street is Route 20, because, Route 20 you have a lot more retail. But this whole project didn't get a fair shake out there in the sense that, all right, and remember, by the way, I've talked about the dangers there. I was very familiar with that site. But this whole project didn't get a fair shake because everything came to a screeching halt. All right? And people are still wondering. But the guy 2 houses down, he pulled a dirty punch at me. He said, "Tom, what's the taxes going to be on that complex?" I says, "I think between $400,000 and $500,000. You know? So I said earlier tonight, let's watch out for economic development. Let's watch out for our tax base, our housing, and I tell you, quite honestly, I'm tired of looking at that parcel of land. But I'm just saying that, I mean, no way would I vote on this tonight, because first of all, people all over town would be shocked. Nobody, I bet, knew this was on the agenda tonight because we would have had the calls. I know 3 guys that would have called me. Anybody call you, Councilor Doucette? They didn't even know about it.
No,
so,
no one did.
I mean, that's what we have to be careful of. So they have another, 6 weeks between now and August 24th. All right? But the other thing, and then I'm going to shut up, that we haven't had the publicity. We have 0 coverage in Marlborough from the newspapers. They don't have the vaguest idea. The editor down there in, what's that, the Hopkinton News or the Framingham News, whatever that paper is called, they have no idea that it's the old McGee's farm. You know? So, I don't know. I mean, sometimes we got the answer from the state, all right? So now we got to take a look at things. That's all, Madam Chair.
I would agree with you that we don't have very much coverage. I believe we have a lot of dedicated people in the city that watch the council agenda and know exactly what's going on. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they are watching at home to see what happens.
Well, you don't have a TV. I do, and I don't know. I ask people, you ever watch a city council meeting? Huh? What channel is it on?
Oh,
It'd be interesting if Channel 8 or 34 could do some type of, through Verizon or Comcast, to see how many people you think are watching this right now? 50? Tops.
I don't know, but I think we need to make a decision. Either we are voting tonight or we're setting up another meeting, because if this is not reported out on July 19th, this chairman will not be able to have another meeting, and this will be approved by, now I'm going to blank on the terminology. I'm sorry. Thank you. I watched a recording of this and said, I got to remember that word. Constructive agreement on the 23rd. And that's not a threat. That's just reality for my schedule to be able to have another meeting.
Well, I'll give you a hint. I've scheduled my meeting, which we need for the telephone, for July 14th. Tuesday night, Karen?
And there are 3 committees set up that night.
Have they already been set up?
Yes.
Good. That's why I guess I was the first. I'm the one that set the date.
And Councilor Navin just said he will not be here.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Navin.
Just to offer a comment on this. I think it is true. I don't think a lot of folks know that this is on our agenda tonight. This is not for lack of the city clerk's office doing their best to make sure that all of the information is publicly available. It is the middle of summer. People are busy. And I think that that's right. My phone did not ring. That said, I could tell you all the people who would have rung my phone, and their opinion will not have changed. There is no new information from what I can tell, except for the confirmation about the traffic light from the warrant of MassDOT, right? I mean, Brian, this is pretty, I appreciate it, and it's a great presentation. There's no new information here, I don't think. And so, I feel very comfortable with the feedback I've received from residents in Ward 6 and quite frankly across the city. So if this is something we get to tonight, I wouldn't object to voting. I'm not going to speak for everybody, obviously. I don't speak for Councilor Landers. I don't think this is something that would be.
You don't want to speak for me.
No, I do not. you know, I don't think this is something that would be passed in the dead of night, and quite frankly, it'd then have to go to the full council meeting where, you know, people would continue to. So I think those are my 5 cents at this point. I think it's a lot more than 2. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Councillor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, as an Urban Affairs Committee, you know, you're elected to make these decisions. Some of them are hard, all right? I mean, that's fine. So is there any new information you're going to get that you want that's going to change your position on the item? If not, make a motion and vote. The chair will report it out on the 19th of July, and it'll get voted on August 23rd, before the due date. That's almost 6-7 weeks for people to go contact, call, and see if they agree with what the Urban Affairs vote is or not. I'm not sure what rock do you really want? I mean, we're at the point, it's been over a year now the council's had this. You know, make a decision. That's what we're elected to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ossing.
Madam Chair?
Councillor Doucette.
I think it probably would make more sense that we vote on this tonight as just to, I don't think any changes will, opinions will actually change. But I think as far as what needs to be changed just before it gets out of committee is I would like to vote to change the, on page 5, item D, the issue basically, the Department of Transportation is unauthorized traffic signal within 3 years. Change that to 5, just as, so that the way it provides adequate time based upon the construction that's occurring in the area. That's not necessarily going to change my vote, but I think that's an important change that needs to be done. And we can vote on that change if you feel that's important. And then if you want to actually vote on the special permit overall, I would be open to vote on it tonight as well.
All right, Councillor Doucette is moving to amend item 8D from 3 years to 5 years. I guess my personal concern is we have heard that we're going to receive a letter that the Department of Transportation is not approving a traffic light. I personally don't see anything that's going to change between now and 3 years, let alone 5 years, that would make any difference. So to me, that just puts this off longer than I think we need to decide what to do with the $200,000. It's my personal opinion, but if somebody else on the committee wants to convince me that we can wait 2 additional more years, I guess. Anybody else opinions on the change from 3 to 5?
Mike, I just had a question about
Council
that.
Perman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was just, does it expire if it's not spent within the 3 years? Or we're saying because the traffic light has already been, you know, communicated by the state that it wouldn't happen, that means it would sort of automatically allow the council to move forward on something else with the money allocated within the 3 years.
My understanding from reading this is that if the Massachusetts Department of Transportation does not authorize said traffic signal within 3 years following the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy, which could actually be 2 years down the road, then we can use the money for other things on Route 20. So it's not, the money has to be paid prior to the issuance of the building permit, but the 3 years starts with the final certificate of occupancy. So considering how long the construction could take, that could give you your 5 years. Councillor Doucette.
Yeah, Madam Chair, my concern is not necessarily, I think these guys are going to bang it out real fast, in my humble opinion. I'm more concerned about the state schedule than theirs, you know, just based upon what we saw on Route 85 in the last couple of years as well. So just as far as process and technicality goes, I did make a motion, and I was wondering if one of the other councils would actually second it. If not, then it falls on the table.
I did not hear a second.
That's
I
fine.
commented, so I guess there is no second. So we have a document in front of us. Anybody have questions or comments about anything else that's in here? Nobody wants to make a motion, huh?
have all the
Chair.
information
At our
I
rules.
need. I think we're echoing what I've heard is, I'm prepared to, I'd move to vote on, I think we have what we need to make a decision. So I would move to vote on the special permit as presented. Is that proper form?
Move to vote how?
Oh, secret. Let's do a paper ballot.
What do you-
No, I'm sorry, it has to be a motion to approve or a motion to deny.
Oh, I would motion to deny.
Thank you.
Seconded.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Counselor Landers.
The reason I won't vote tonight, because we've had a lot of conversation. I'm quite removed from that area, but I've had a lot of conversations with people, and I've kind of indicated to them how I was going to vote. You know, I had certain conditions and certain things, and quite honestly, there's a certain group, and we get told, if we get any publicity out of this meeting here, that will be calling. And I don't want them to read in the paper about my vote. I want to be able to tell them. Because who knows? I could support it.
Madam Chair?
So I'm not ready. I won't vote tonight.
We'll wait to see if anybody else has any other comments before Counselor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. To the point that was made prior, this basically gets it out of committee because I don't see any changes done that would be done, you know. This document was well done, well executed, and I think this is going to be the final draft. So I think that if, you know, I don't see any changes, that more changes can be made by this committee, so I think it's important that we vote on it, which is why I motioned with Councilor Wagner.
Thank you. And I will reflect, although it's been rare and probably is a concern, councilors have voted one way in committee and another way on the floor when the full council votes. So one vote does not mean anything when it comes down to the final vote of the council.
Madam Chair, can we do a roll call vote too, please?
We'll do that. I want to see if there's further discussion on the motion to deny. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to belabor this. It's late. We've been here quite a bit, and we've had some interesting conversations tonight. I just want to say a couple of things. You know, this is a good project. You guys have done a lot of work. I think that this is a compelling project. We've talked about it ad nauseum. There are environmental benefits. There are benefits that would help clean up the site. It is visually more appealing than some of the other projects that we've seen. It always comes back down to the same things for me, and so that's why I don't want to keep going on and on. The traffic is a huge issue for me. You guys did a ton of work trying to move a mountain to get DOT on board, and I appreciate it and I respect that. If they are not going to be able to do it, I have a really hard time voting to, you know, green light this project to go any more forward than this. So for that, for me, is going to be it. You know, a couple of times tonight, it's been said, you know, we got to watch economic development. We've got to be careful about how we vote on things. We don't want to send a message to people who want to come to the city to do business that we're not open for business. I don't think that's what this is. I think we showed good faith. I think you, as a developer, showed very good faith. I wish there were other parcels. I hope there are other parcels that would be better fit for something like this, because this is the type of business that, you know, the type of building that I like to see. I just can't, in good conscience, vote to support it on this part of Route 20. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anybody else? All right. Councilor Ossing.
Well, I'll yield to Council.
The only thing we got to be careful of, fellow council, is sometimes the devil we know is better than the devil we don't know. Something is going there someday, and probably won't need a light. That's all.
Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of what Councilor Landers was saying. I mean, part of us is the council is a vision. I mean, and I recognize when there's neighbors that, you know, that are vocal in some areas, but think about, some of us represent the entire city, right? So what we know about this project is we have the opportunity to control it and set some conditions upon what's going to go in. If it goes in as of right, which can happen, I have no idea what it is, but it's basically industrial, which would, I just go back to the airport, and I keep using that because I think that was not a success for the city in the visionary of what we wanted something to look like. And then I go back to William Street with that ugly green building that's down the end of William Street next to the similar over 55 complex. As a council, yes, there are hard stands we take, and you got to ask yourself, and there's no right answer, but what you need to vote on it because time's running out. But what do you want to see for that area to look like? And if you want to have some control over it, this is the vote that you'd want to take. If you don't want to have any control over it at this point, now who knows? Could be retail, someone come back with another housing, who knows what could come back before us. But now we don't have any control over it unless they ask for a special permit. So here you have some control, and then again, I'll go back to taxes. What we do today impacts taxes 2-3 years from now. And in the 18 months we've been on the council, we haven't done anything to help impact taxes 18 months from now, or 2+ years from now. So, we can make all the COVID and other things we want, but, I would encourage the Urban Affairs to look favorably on the special permit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I know all of us are probably, this has been tough trying to make a decision, and I know my pushing to have a vote tonight was probably not expected, but I would hope that you all thought that that would be the plan. I know for me, I think the traffic is, my reaction to the light is more a reason to allow me to continue to be in favor of this project. To me, the state confirms that the traffic coming out of this will not be that much of an impact. If it was, the traffic light would meet the warrant. So yes, Route 20 has a lot of traffic, but there's traffic all over the city. We hear it every time, and there's a traffic commission meeting tomorrow that will be talking about traffic issues in the city. So I know that we all have our reasons for why we're voting on this and how we're voting on it. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of discussion when it comes to the full council at a later date. So I appreciate everybody's time with this. I know you've dealt with a lot of people, and it's been tough. I think for some of us, this will be, or for some councilors, this will be your first real tough vote. So I appreciate everybody's homework. And I don't know if there was anybody else. Councilor Perlman, you have one final thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't belabor any of my comments since I know I've spoken a lot at other meetings, but I did, just for the public's benefit, if you could just reiterate, the process that this would go to the full council, it would be reported out, and when the final vote would be taken, just so people are aware, since they weren't able to be aware necessarily about this meeting.
Yes, I guess the plan would be to take the vote tonight. On the 19th, I would ask for suspension so this document could be sent to the city solicitor, who has not seen the changes. Make sure it is in proper legal form, and then that document from the solicitor would be on the August 23rd City Council meeting with the recommendation of this committee for a full vote by the council. So as was said, there will be plenty of time between now and the 23rd of August for the public to be making those phone calls.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from anybody? If not, there was a request for a roll call vote. Councilor Wagner.
I just want to clarify, so this is a vote to deny, which means a yes vote is denying the approval. So
you are correct.
Councilor Wagner votes yes.
Councilor Landers.
Present.
Councilor Navin.
Yeah. Yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Yes.
And Councilor Roby votes no. So the recommendation to deny carries 3-1.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are adjourned at 9, no, 44.